They thought she was just another quota. They thought the badge on their chest made them gods, and the color of her skin made her prey. Officer Kyle Bennett and his partner Hank McAllister had run this scam a dozen times in Turner County, Georgia. Pull them over, plant the baggie, seize the cash, ruin the life. Simple. But on a humid night, they did not pull over a victim. They pulled over a phantom. The woman in the driver's seat was not panicking. She was calculating. They saw a helpless suspect. She saw two targets. They planted evidence on a ghost, a high-level CIA operative in deep cover named Michelle Grant. And they had no idea that by the time they slapped the cuffs on her wrists, they had already signed their own death warrants. This is not just a story about corruption. It is a masterclass in revenge. The rain in Turner County did not wash things clean. It just made the dirt stick harder. On a stretch of Highway 19, a back road surrounded by loblolly pines that looked like jagged teeth in the headlights, Michelle Grant adjusted her grip on the steering wheel inside a sleek charcoal gray sedan. She was not tired, though she should have been. She had just come from a safe house near Miami, debriefing a defected cartel accountant. Her mind was still running simulations on extraction protocols and encryption keys. She just wanted to get to her farmhouse, a secluded property 20 miles outside of town, where she kept her civilian life. A life where she was a freelance logistics consultant, boring, invisible. In her rearview mirror, the blue and red lights exploded into existence. Michelle did not flinch. She checked her speedometer. 55 in a 55. Her tags were current, her taillights were functional. She sighed, the sound barely audible over the hum of the heater. She knew the statistics. She knew the demographic of the Turner County Sheriff's Department. She tapped the brakes and pulled onto the gravel shoulder, the gravel crunching loudly under her tires. She lowered the window. The humid air smelled of wet pine and exhaust. She kept her hands at 10 and 2, visible. Still in the side mirror, she watched them approach. Two of them. The one on the left was heavy-set, walking with a swagger that suggested his belt was too tight. That was Officer Hank McAllister. She did not know his name yet, but she knew his type. Bully who peaked in high school. The one on the right approaching the passenger side was younger, wiry, with eyes that darted too much. Officer Kyle Bennett shined his flashlight directly into her eyes. It was a power move designed to disorient. Michelle did not blink. She squinted slightly, shielding her eyes with a practiced grace. License and registration. McAllister grunted. No. Good evening. No. Do you know why I pulled you over? Is there a problem, officer? Michelle asked. Her voice was calm, modulating to a frequency of polite submission. It was part of the mask. I asked for your license and registration, McAllister repeated louder this time. His hand rested on the butt of his service weapon, a subconscious intimidation tactic. Michelle moved slowly. It is in my glove box. I'm going to reach for it now. She opened the compartment, retrieved the documents, and handed them out the window. McAllister snatched them. He looked at the ID, then back at her. Michelle Grant. He read the name like it tasted bad. You are a long way from the city. Michelle, what are you doing out here on Highway 19? I live 10 miles up the road, officer. I am heading home. Home? McAllister scoffed. He leaned in closer, his breath smelling of stale coffee and wintergreen tobacco. You do not look like you are from around here. This car, it is nice. Too nice for a consultant. What do you really do? Run numbers for the boys in Atlanta. I work in logistics, Michelle said, her pulse steady at 60 beats per minute. Step out of the car, McAllister commanded. Am I under arrest, officer? I have not committed a traffic violation. I smell marijuana." McAllister lied. He said it with the ease of a man who had said it 1,000 times. "Step out of the car." Michelle knew the game. If she resisted, they would escalate. If she complied, they would plant. But she also knew something they did not. The dash cam on her car was a military-grade OmniLens recording in 4K with audio currently streaming to a secure server in Langley, Virginia. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out into the rain. "Hands on the hood! Spread them!" Bennett shouted from the other side. He was nervous. The rookie. McAllister patted her down, his hands lingering too long, too rough. He found nothing but a phone and a wallet. He tossed them onto the wet hood of her car. "Watch her, Bennett," McAllister said. Michelle watched in the reflection of the window as McAllister leaned into the driver's side seat. He blocked the view of his body with the car door, assuming he was hidden. But he was not hidden from her internal dashcam. He reached into his tactical vest. His hand came out holding a small clear plastic bag filled with white powder. He tucked it under the driver's seat mat. He stood up, a grin spreading across his face like a crack in a windshield. "Well, well, well," McAllister boomed, holding up a second baggie he had pulled from his pocket, the finder bag. "Look what we have here, Bennett. Cocaine. A lot of it. Looks like intent to distribute." Bennett blinked, looking at his partner, then at Michelle. He hesitated for a fraction of a second. The hesitation of a man who knew this was wrong, but was too cowardly to stop it. Then he hardened. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Michelle turned slowly. As Bennett slapped the cuffs on her wrists, tightening them to the point of pain, she looked McAllister dead in the eye. She did not plead. She did not cry. She did not scream that she was innocent. "You have made a mistake," Michelle said softly. McAllister laughed. A deep belly laugh. "The only mistake, sweetheart, was you driving through my county." He shoved her into the back of the cruiser. The hard plastic seat was cold. As the door slammed shut, sealing her in the cage, Michelle closed her eyes. She was not praying. She was memorizing. Their badge numbers. She visualized the hierarchy of the Turner County justice system. She would let them process her. She would let them book her. She would let them think they had won. Because when you trap a wolf, you better make sure the cage is strong enough. And these boys just locked themselves in with the predator. The holding cell at the Turner County precinct smelled of bleach and despair. The fluorescent lights buzzed with a headache-inducing frequency. Michelle sat on the metal bench, her posture perfect, her hands folded in her lap. She had been stripped of her personal effects, her phone, her watch, her belt, but they had not stripped her of her training. She had been processed, fingerprinted, mugshot taken. The humiliation was the point. They wanted her to break. They wanted the angry black woman stereotype to emerge so they could justify whatever force they decided to use next. She gave them nothing, just silence. Detective Ray Ellison walked in. He was the closer, a man in his 50s with a receding hairline and a cheap suit that strained the buttons. He carried a file folder and a cup of lukewarm water. He sat opposite her, placing the folder on the metal table between them with a heavy thud. "Michelle." Ellison started, his voice dripping with faux sympathy. "I'm looking at your file here. No prior, clean record. It is a shame to throw it all away for a quick payday." Michelle stared at a spot on the wall just past his left ear. "McAllister says you were aggressive. Says you resisted," Ellison continued, opening the folder. "And the amount of blow they found. That is a felony, Michelle. Mandatory minimums in this state are no joke. You are looking at 15 years, maybe 20. He leaned in. "But I can help you." You tell me who you are moving this for. You give me a name in Atlanta or Miami. And maybe I talk to the DA. Maybe we get this knocked down to possession. Probation. You walk out of here tonight. It was the classic prisoner's dilemma. Confess to a crime you did not commit to avoid a life sentence or stay silent and gamble with your life. Michelle finally shifted her gaze to Ellison. Her eyes were dark, intelligent, and terrifyingly calm. "I want my phone call," she said. Ellison's face tightened. The nice guy act evaporated. He slammed his hand on the table. "Well, you think you are smart? You think you are playing a game? You are in Turner County now, lady. We are the game. You do not get a phone call until I say you get a phone call. According to the Sixth Amendment and state statute. 14b, I am entitled to legal counsel and one phone call upon booking," Michelle recited, her voice monotone. "Denial of this right is a procedural error that will result in a mistrial. You know this, detective." Ellison stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the concrete floor. He was red in the face. "You want a lawyer? Fine. I'll get you a public defender who is asleep half the time. Have fun rotting in here until arraignment." He stormed out, slamming the heavy steel door. Michelle waited a moment. Then she exhaled. She did not need a public defender. She needed to trigger the failsafe. Eventually, a young uniformed officer looking bored opened the slot in the door. "Phone's out in the hall. 2 minutes." Michelle walked to the wall-mounted payphone. She did not call a family member. She did not call a bail bondsman. She dialed a number that did not exist in any public directory. It rang once. "Line secure," a robotic voice answered. "Access code Sierra Tango 94. "Authorization grant," Michelle whispered rapidly. A pause, then a human voice. Sharp male voice. "Status compromised. Local law enforcement. Turner County. Framed for narcotics, currently in holding. Do you require extraction?" the voice asked. "Negative," Michelle said, her eyes narrowing as she watched McAllister walking down the hall, laughing with another officer. "They planted evidence. I want to burn the field. Initiate protocol Glass House. Get me a lawyer who is not in the agency but can handle a federal clearance level. I need a shark." "Understood. Protocol Glass House initiated. Lawyer inbound. Sit tight, agent." The line clicked dead. Michelle hung up the phone and turned around. McAllister was standing there smirking. "Who you call?" "Your mama." McAllister jeered. "Tell her to bring a checkbook. Bail is gonna be set high." Michelle walked past him back toward her cell. As she passed, she stopped and leaned in close, invading his personal space just enough to make him flinch. "I called the end of your career, officer," she whispered. McAllister shoved her into the cell and locked it. "Crazy bitch," he muttered as he walked away. He had no idea. The arraignment was a circus. The courtroom was packed with the usual misery of county justice. Drug addicts, petty thieves, tired families. Judge Evelyn Holloway presided. She was a woman known for her harsh sentencing and her tight relationship with the police union. When Michelle's case was called, the prosecutor, a slick man named Michael Grayson, stood up. "Your Honor, the defendant was found with 200 grams of cocaine. She has no ties to the community and is a flight risk. The state requests bail be set at $500,000. A murmur went through the court. 500 grand for a traffic stop arrest. It was excessive. It was punitive. "So ordered," Judge Holloway said, banging her gavel without even looking at Michelle. "Your Honor," the voice boomed from the back of the courtroom. The heavy oak doors swung open. Walking down the center aisle was a man in a bespoke Navy suit that cost more than McAllister made in a year. He carried a leather briefcase and walked with the confidence of a man who owned the building. It was attorney Nathan Sterling, not a public defender, not a local ambulance chaser. Nathan Sterling was the kind of defense attorney who represented senators, tech moguls, and international arms dealers. He was the shark the agency had sent. "Who are you?" Judge Holloway asked, peering over her glasses. "Nathan Sterling, appearing for the defense, Your Honor," he said, stepping through the swinging gate and placing his briefcase on the defense table. He did not look at Michelle. He looked at the prosecutor, Grayson, and smiled. A smile that had too many teeth. "Mr. Grayson," Sterling said smoothly, "I suggest you withdraw the bail request. In fact, I suggest you withdraw the charges entirely. Because if we proceed to a bail hearing, I am going to have to enter evidence that will make this county look very, very foolish." Grayson scoffed. "We have the drugs, Mr. Sterling. We have the arresting officer's testimony. You have a bag of flour and a fairy tale." Sterling shot back, his voice dropping an octave. "My client enters a plea of not guilty. We will pay the bail cash today." He turned to the gallery, locking eyes with Officer McAllister, who was sitting in the front row chewing gum. Sterling winked at him. McAllister stopped chewing. A cold bead of sweat trickled down his spine. For the first time, he realized the woman in the charcoal sedan was not a sheep. She was something else entirely, and the wolf was about to get bit. Freedom cost exactly $500,000 wired from a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands that officially dealt in agricultural machinery imports. Michelle walked out of the Turner County Detention Center. The rain had stopped, replaced by a stifling, muggy heat that made the air shimmer off the pavement. She did not look back at the building. She walked straight to the black SUV waiting at the curb. The window rolled down, revealing Nathan Sterling. He did not smile this time. He just nodded. Michelle slid into the back seat. The interior was cool, smelling of leather and sanitized air. A stark contrast to the urine and bleach of the holding cell. "Report," Michelle said, fastening her seatbelt. The victim persona was gone. The operative was back. "The package is secure," Sterling said, handing her a tablet. "We have pulled the metadata from your vehicle's cloud server. The Omni lens captured everything. Audio, video, and thermal imaging. We have McAllister's body heat signature spiking when he planted the bag. We have the distinct absence of heat on the baggie itself before he pulled it from his vest, proving it had been kept close to his body, not under a cold car seat." Michelle scrolled through the data streams on the tablet. It was beautiful. It was a digital autopsy of a crime while it was happening. And the substances, the lab results on the cocaine they found came back, Sterling said, a dry chuckle escaping his throat. "It tested positive for cocaine cut with baking soda and crushed drywall. It is street-level garbage. The interesting part is the chemical signature. We ran it against the DEA database. It matches a batch seized from a bust in Turner County 6 months ago. A bust conducted by Officer Hank McAllister. He is recycling evidence," Michelle murmured, "stealing from the evidence locker to plant on new suspects. Efficient. It is sloppy," Sterling corrected. "And it is going to bury him." "Not yet," Michelle said, her eyes cold. "If we release this now, the DA drops the charges. McAllister gets fired. Maybe does a year or two. He keeps his pension. He goes on to work private security and bully people at the mall." She looked up, locking eyes with Sterling in the rearview mirror. "I do not want him fired. I want him destroyed. We go to court. We let them testify. We let them lie on the record. I want perjury charges. I want federal conspiracy charges. I want the whole department to burn." Sterling smiled. "Protocol Glass House in full effect. We are going to trial. Meanwhile, at the Turner County precinct, the atmosphere was shifting from victorious to uneasy. Hank McAllister sat in the break room nursing a lukewarm coffee. The adrenaline of the arrest had worn off, replaced by a nagging itch at the back of his neck. "Kyle," McAllister whispered, sliding into the chair opposite him. The rookie looked pale. "Have you seen the lawyer?" "Sterling?" "I looked him up. He represented the vice president's son last year. He charges $1,000 an hour. How does a logistics consultant afford a guy like that?" "Drug money, kid. I told you." McAllister dismissed him, though his own stomach churned. "She's a mule. High level. Cartel probably pays her legal fees to keep her mouth shut. But her background," Bennett pressed, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. "Ellison tried to run a level 2 background check on her this morning. You know what happened? The system flagged it. Access denied. Department of Defense. Why would a drug mule have a DOD flag?" McAllister froze. He lowered his cup slowly. "Glitch in the system. Happens all the time." It did not look like a glitch. "Ellison is freaking out. He is asking if we did everything by the book." "We did exactly what we always do," McAllister snapped, his voice rising. "We saw a suspicious vehicle. We had probable cause. We found the stash. End of story. You stick to the report, Bennett. Word for word. You waver now and you are done. You understand? The only way this goes south is if you open your mouth." Bennett nodded, but the fear did not leave his eyes. He stood up to leave, but McAllister grabbed his wrist. "Hey," McAllister said, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. "We are the law here. Nobody comes into Turner County and pushes us around. Not some fancy lawyer, not some consultant. We own this town. Remember that." Bennett pulled his arm away and walked out. McAllister watched him go, then pulled out his personal cell phone, a burner he kept for off-book business. He dialed a number. "Yeah, it is me," McAllister said into the phone. "I need you to dig into someone. Michelle Grant. I do not care about her record. I want her dirt. Where she lives, who she screws, what she eats for breakfast. She is becoming a problem." He hung up. He was not going to wait for court. He was going to Mammoth to send a message. Later, the sun was setting over Michelle's farmhouse. The property was isolated, surrounded by 50 acres of dense woodland. It looked like a peaceful retreat. In reality, it was a fortress. Hidden motion sensors in the trees tracked the approach of a beat-up Ford pickup truck long before it reached the driveway. Inside the house, Michelle sat in her command center, a room in the basement lined with monitors. She watched the feed as the truck rolled to a stop at her gate. It was McAllister. He was off duty, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, but the bulge of a pistol at his hip was unmistakable. He did not ring the intercom. He hopped the fence. Bold, Michelle whispered to herself. She did not reach for a gun. She did not call 911. She simply switched on the house's external audio system. McAllister crept toward the front porch. He was looking for something to break. A window, a planter, something to show her that she was not safe. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small pocket knife, intending to slash the tires of her charcoal sedan parked in the driveway. Suddenly, the floodlights mounted on the eaves of the house blazed to life, blindingly bright. McAllister threw his arm up to shield his eyes, stumbling back. From hidden speakers, a voice echoed. It was not Michelle's voice. It was a recording of McAllister's own voice. "The only mistake, sweetheart, was you driving through my county." McAllister spun around, heart hammering against his ribs. Who is there? Come out. The audio shifted. A new recording played. This one was grainy. The sound of a barroom conversation. I need that money, Tony. My alimony is killing me. We hit the dealer on 4th Street tonight. We pocket half the cash, book the rest. Nobody knows. McAllister's blood ran cold. That conversation was from years ago. It was with a former partner who was currently in prison. How did she have this? The front door of the farmhouse opened. Michelle stepped out. She was wearing a simple silk robe, holding a cup of tea. She looked like a queen surveying a peasant. "You are trespassing, Officer McAllister," she said, her voice calm, carrying effortlessly through the humid night air. "What the hell is this?" McAllister shouted, trying to regain his bravado. "Wiretapping is a felony." "So is planting evidence," Michelle replied. "So is theft. So is perjury. You seem to be collecting felonies like baseball cards." McAllister marched toward the steps, his hand hovering near his gun. "But you think some parlor tricks scare me? You think you can blackmail a cop in this town? I can have a SWAT team here in 20 minutes. I can say you threatened me." "You could," Michelle agreed. "But then I would have to release the video of you stealing $4,000 from the seizure fund last Christmas, or the photos of you with that escort at the Motel 6 in Dawsonville while you were on the clock." McAllister froze. His face went from red to a sickly shade of gray. "Go home, Hank," Michelle said, using his first name for the first time. It sounded like a curse. "Go home and hug your kids, because you are not going to see them for a very long time." She turned and walked back inside, shutting the door. The floodlights cut out, plunging him back into darkness. McAllister stood there for a full minute, shaking. He had come to hunt a rabbit, and he had found a dragon. He turned and ran back to his truck, peeling out of the driveway, kicking up gravel in his wake. The deposition of Officer Kyle Bennett took place in a glass-walled conference room in downtown Turner County. Nathan Sterling sat at the head of the table. Michelle sat next to him, silent, writing on a yellow legal pad. Across from them sat Bennett, looking like he had not slept in days, and the prosecutor, Michael Grayson. "Officer Bennett," Sterling began, adjusting his cufflinks, "let us go over the timeline of the arrest. You stated in your report that you observed Miss Grant swerving across the center line. Is that correct?" "Yes," Bennett said, his voice cracking. He cleared his throat. "Yes, she swerved. And the weather conditions, it was raining. Visibility was poor." "Interesting," Sterling said. He pulled a document from a stack. "Because according to the National Weather Service, the rain did not start until later. You pulled her over before the rain began. The road was dry, Officer Bennett." Bennett blinked. He looked at Grayson. Grayson frowned. "Objection. Relevance. Credibility, Mr. Grayson." Sterling smiled. "Officer Bennett, did you see Miss Grant place the drugs under her seat?" "No," Bennett said quickly. "Officer McAllister found them. He showed them to me." "So you did not see the drugs until they were in Officer McAllister's hand?" "That is correct." "And did you see where Officer McAllister's hands were before he found the drugs?" Bennett hesitated. He thought back to that night, the way McAllister had reached into his vest, the look McAllister had given him, the look that said, "Play along or else." "I was watching the suspect." Bennett lied. Michelle stopped writing. She looked up and stared directly at Bennett. She did not blink. It was the same look she had given the cartel accountant in Miami right before he cracked. It was a look that said, "I know everything." Bennett looked down at his hands. He was sweating profusely now. "Officer Bennett," Sterling softened his voice, a predator luring prey. Perjury is a serious crime. If it comes out that you falsified a police report, you lose your badge. You go to prison. But if you were merely following orders, if you were coerced by a superior officer, that is a different story. The DA can be lenient with cooperating witnesses. Objection. Grayson slammed his hand on the table. You are badgering the witness and soliciting a deal without my consent. I am just educating the young officer on his options, Sterling said innocently. The deposition ended an hour later. Bennett practically ran out of the room. In the elevator, Grayson turned to Sterling. You are playing a dangerous game, Nathan. You are trying to turn a rookie against a veteran. It will not work. The blue wall of silence is real. Walls crumble, Michael, Sterling said, watching the numbers on the elevator panel tick down, especially when the foundation is rotten. As they walked out of the building, Michelle checked her watch. Phase 1 is complete. McAllister is terrified. And Bennett is breaking. Now we initiate the karma protocol, which is? Sterling asked. We do not just win the case, Michelle said, putting on her sunglasses. We take away their ability to ever hurt anyone again. I have sent the files to the FBI's Civil Rights Division, and I leaked the dashboard footage to a contact at the New York Times. It drops the morning the trial starts. That is explosive, Sterling noted. No, Michelle corrected him. That is justice. The trial was set for soon. Turner County was about to become the center of a national firestorm, and Officer McAllister was bringing a bucket of gasoline to the fight, unaware that Michelle held the match. The Turner County Courthouse was a relic of a different era, built of red brick and white pillars designed to project permanence and stability. On the morning of State versus Grant, it felt less like a monument to justice and more like a pressure cooker waiting to blow. The leak had worked. The New York Times article headlined the Turner County trap. Pattern of corruption had dropped. By the time court opened, satellite trucks from CNN and Fox News were fighting for parking spots on the lawn. Michelle walked through the gauntlet of microphones with Nathan Sterling at her side. She wore a white suit, sharp, clinical, innocent. Sterling whispered, "Do not say a word. Let your face tell the story." She looked stoic, brave. The cameras ate it up. Inside, the courtroom was standing room only. Officer McAllister sat behind the prosecution table, looking uncomfortable in a suit that was too tight across the shoulders. He glared at Michelle. He still thought he could win. He still thought the badge would protect him. Judge Holloway banged the gavel. Order. I will not have a circus in my courtroom. Prosecutor Grayson opened with the standard line. A routine traffic stop. An observant officer. A dangerous amount of narcotics. He painted Michelle as a sophisticated trafficker, using rural roads to avoid detection. It was a good story. It was just a shame it was fiction. Then McAllister took the stand. He raised his right hand. He swore to tell the truth. He sat down, looking at the jury with a practiced expression of weary duty. Officer McAllister, Grayson asked, can you describe the events of that night? Yes, sir, McAllister said, his voice booming. I observed the defendant's vehicle weaving. I initiated a stop. Upon approaching the vehicle, I detected the strong odor of marijuana. I asked the driver to exit. During a search for the source of the marijuana odor, I discovered a bag of cocaine hidden under the driver's seat. And did the defendant say anything? She was belligerent, hostile. She threatened my job. Grayson nodded, satisfied. Thank you, officer. Your witness. Nathan Sterling stood up. He did not walk to the podium. He walked to the center of the room, standing awkwardly close to the witness box. "Officer McAllister," Sterling began, his voice pleasant. "You have been a police officer for 22 years. Is that right? 22 years. A long time. You must be very good at spotting details. I like to think so. You testified that you smelled marijuana. Did you find any marijuana in Miss Grant's car?" McAllister shifted in his seat. "No, we did not. But the smell can linger indeed. And you testified that Miss Grant was weaving. But we have already established via weather reports that the roads were dry. Yet you claimed it was raining during the stop in your initial report. Why the discrepancy? I might have been confused about the exact time the rain started." McAllister grunted. It was a long shift. "Of course," Sterling said. "Fatigue. We all understand that. Tell me, officer, why was your body camera turned off?" The room went silent. It malfunctioned. McAllister said the standard excuse, battery issue. It happens. And Officer Bennett's camera malfunctioned too. You would have to ask him? We will, Sterling promised. So we have no video of the stop. Just your word against hers. My word is the law in this county. McAllister snapped, losing his cool for a second. Sterling smiled. He walked back to his table and picked up a small remote control. Your Honor, Sterling addressed the judge. The defense moves to enter Exhibit D into evidence. This is footage recovered from the defendant's vehicle. It is not a standard dash cam. It is a military-grade Omni lens system with a 360-degree interior and exterior view. McAllister's face went white. Grayson jumped up. Objection. We have not seen this footage. This is trial by ambush. Mr. Grayson, Judge Holloway said, intrigued despite herself. If there is video of the arrest, the court needs to see it. Overruled. Play the tape. Sterling pointed the remote at the large screen on the wall. The video began. The quality was startlingly clear. The courtroom watched in silence as the charcoal sedan pulled over. They heard the gravel crunch. They saw McAllister approach. They heard the audio crystal clear. Is there a problem, officer? Michelle's voice, calm, polite. I smell marijuana. McAllister's voice, arrogant, dismissive. Then came the moment the angle shifted to the interior view, a perspective McAllister did not know existed. On the massive screen 20 feet high, the jury watched Officer Hank McAllister lean into the car. They saw his hand reach into his tactical vest. They saw the baggie. They saw him shove it under the mat. A collective gasp ripped through the courtroom. A woman in the back row covered her mouth. On the screen, McAllister stood up and pulled the second baggie from his pocket. Well, well, well. Look what we have here. Sterling paused the video. The image of McAllister, grinning with the planted drugs, was frozen on the screen. Sterling turned to the witness stand. McAllister looked like he was having a stroke. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Officer McAllister, Sterling's voice was like a whip crack. Is that you on the screen? That is doctored. That is fake AI video. McAllister screamed, standing up. She made it up. She is a spy. Sit down. Judge Holloway bellowed, banging her gavel so hard it chipped the wood. That video, Sterling continued relentlessly, is time-stamped, geotagged, and encrypted. It has been verified by independent forensic analysts. It shows you committing a Class A felony. It shows you framing an innocent woman. Sterling walked closer to the witness stand until he was looking up into McAllister's sweating face. Tell me, officer, how many other people are in prison right now because of magic tricks like that? I plead the fifth. McAllister choked out. The Fifth Amendment protects you from self-incrimination, Sterling said coldly, but it does not protect you from the truth. No further questions. McAllister slumped back in his chair. He looked at the jury. They were not looking at him with respect anymore. They were looking at him with disgust. He looked at his partner, Bennett, who was sitting in the gallery, head in his hands. The wolf realized too late that the trap had snapped shut. If McAllister's testimony was the spark, Kyle Bennett was the gasoline. After a brief recess during which the sound of McAllister screaming at his union rep could be heard through the thick walls of the consultation room, the trial resumed. Michael Grayson, the prosecutor, looked defeated. He knew the case was dead. He tried to move for a dismissal, but Judge Holloway, sensing the political winds shifting, denied it with prejudice. She wanted a verdict. She wanted to distance herself from the police department as fast as possible. "Call your next witness," she ordered. "The state calls Officer Kyle Bennett," Grayson mumbled. Bennett walked to the stand. He looked like a ghost. He did not look at McAllister. He looked at Michelle. She gave him a small nod, not of forgiveness, but of acknowledgement. "Do the right thing." "Officer Bennett," Grayson said, dispensing with the pleasantries. "Did you know Officer McAllister planted the drugs?" Bennett took a deep breath. He looked at his wife in the audience. He looked at the flag in the corner. "Yes," Bennett whispered. "Speak up," Judge Holloway commanded. "Yes," Bennett shouted, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes, I knew. He did it all the time. He called it the Turner County tax. If they had cash, we took it. If they did not, we planted something to get the arrest numbers up. He told me it was how things worked here. He told me if I did not play along, I would be the one in the cell." Pandemonium. Reporters were typing furiously on their phones. The jury was murmuring loudly. "He threatened you?" Grayson asked, trying to salvage something. "He told me he would ruin my life," Bennett sobbed. "He said nobody would believe a rookie over a 22-year veteran, but I cannot do it anymore. I cannot sleep. That woman, Miss Grant, she did not do anything. She was just driving home." "Moved to treat the witness as hostile," the defense attorney for the police union shouted from the back, but nobody listened. Sterling stood up for cross-examination. He did not attack Bennett. He threw him a lifeline. "Officer Bennett," Sterling said gently, "you are aware that Miss Grant is not a drug dealer, that she is in fact a contractor for the United States government." Bennett nodded. "I figured that out later when the background check got flagged. And despite knowing she was innocent and perhaps important, Officer McAllister insisted on proceeding. He said he wanted to break her," Bennett said. "He said he owned this town." Sterling turned to the jury. "He said he owned this town." "Ladies and gentlemen, for 22 years, Hank McAllister has been playing king. Today, we ask you to dethrone him." The jury deliberated briefly. When they returned, the foreman, a retired schoolteacher, stood up. She did not look at the defense table. She looked straight at McAllister. "In the matter of State versus Grant on the charge of possession with intent to distribute, we find the defendant not guilty." Cheering erupted in the courtroom, but it was not over. As the gavel banged to dismiss the court, the double doors at the back of the room burst open. 6 men in blue windbreakers entered. They moved with military precision. The letters on their backs were large and yellow. FBI. Leading them was Special Agent Brian Ross. He walked straight past the bar, ignoring the bailiffs. "Hank McAllister," Ross announced, his voice carrying over the din. "Ray Ellison, you are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights, racketeering, and falsifying federal evidence." McAllister stood up, his face purple. "You cannot do this here." "This is my jurisdiction." "Not anymore," Ross said. He slapped the cuffs on McAllister. The metal clicked shut, a sound that echoed the moment McAllister had cuffed Michelle on the roadside. Detective Ellison, who had been trying to sneak out the side door, was tackled by two agents near the exit. The courtroom turned into a frenzy of flashing cameras. McAllister was perp-walked down the center aisle. As he passed Michelle's table, he stopped. He looked at her. "Who are you?" he hissed, fear finally replacing the anger in his eyes. "Who the hell are you?" Michelle stood up slowly. She leaned in close so only he could hear. "I am the quota you could not fill," she whispered. "I am the consequence." She watched as they dragged him out. Outside on the courthouse steps, the media swarm was intense. Sterling fielded the questions. "Mr. Sterling, is your client planning to sue?" "Mr. Sterling, what does Miss Grant actually do for a living?" Sterling raised a hand. "Miss Grant is a private citizen who values her privacy. She will not be making a statement. However, we will be filing a civil suit against Turner County for $50 million. We intend to bankrupt the corruption that built this department." Michelle stood in the background wearing dark sunglasses. She watched the police cars taking McAllister away. She felt no joy, only the cold satisfaction of a mission completed. She pulled out her burner phone. A text message was waiting. Subject: cleanup status complete. Local assets neutralized. Media coverage at 100%. You are cleared to return to base. She typed a reply. Negative. One loose end remains. The judge. Judge Holloway had allowed the corruption to fester. She had signed the warrants. She had set the punitive bail. She was just as guilty as the men in uniform. Just more polite about it. Michelle looked at Sterling. "Are you hungry?" "Starving," Sterling said. "Good. Let us go get dinner. We have to discuss Phase 3. "Phase 3? Sterling looked alarmed. "I thought we were done." "The bad guys are in cuffs. The hands are in cuffs," Michelle said, walking toward her car. "But the head is still wearing a robe. The story was not over. The karma was just getting started. The head of the snake is rarely the one who bites. It is the one who tells the snake where to strike." In the aftermath, Turner County was in shambles. The sheriff had resigned in disgrace. The district attorney was frantically reviewing every case McAllister had touched in the last decade, overturning convictions by the dozens. But one pillar remained standing: Judge Evelyn Holloway. She sat in her chambers, surrounded by mahogany bookshelves and awards from the Friends of Law Enforcement. She felt untouchable. Judges were immune from civil suits for their judicial acts. She believed the storm would pass around her. She was wrong. Michelle Grant sat in a diner 3 blocks away, wearing a baseball cap and reading a tablet. Nathan Sterling slid into the booth opposite her. He looked exhausted but exhilarated. "We got it," Sterling whispered, sliding a thick envelope across the table. It was not easy. Holloway is smart. She did not take cash bribes, but she got greedy. Michelle opened the envelope. It contained bank records for a nonprofit organization called the Turner County Youth Outreach Program. "The charity is run by her husband," Sterling explained. "Every time Holloway signed a seizure order, taking cash, cars, or property from defendants, a percentage of the auction proceeds was donated to this charity. It is a kickback scheme laundered through philanthropy. Over 5 years, they funneled $2 million into their personal accounts." Michelle smiled. It was the same smile a demolition expert gives right before pushing the plunger. She was profiting from the ruin of the people she was supposed to protect. "It is a federal crime," Sterling said. "Money laundering, racketeering, tax evasion. But Holloway has friends in high places. If we go to the FBI, she might get a tip-off. She might destroy the evidence before they can execute a warrant. Then we do not go to the FBI, Michelle said, standing up. We go to the source. An hour later, Judge Holloway was preparing for a gala dinner. She was in her office applying lipstick in the mirror when the door opened. She did not turn around. Janice, I told you to hold my calls. Janice went home, a voice said. Holloway spun around. Michelle Grant was standing in the doorway. She was not wearing the white suit anymore. She was wearing tactical black, civilian cut, but menacing. You, Holloway gasped. You cannot be in here. I will call the bailiffs. The bailiffs are busy reading the press release we just sent out, Michelle said calmly, stepping into the room and closing the door. And the FBI agents are currently parking their cars in your driveway to seize your assets. It seems civil asset forfeiture works both ways, Evelyn. Holloway's face crumbled. What are you talking about? Michelle threw the file onto the judge's desk. It slid across the polished wood and stopped right in front of her. The Youth Outreach Program, the Cayman accounts, the renovation on your lake house paid for by the charity. We have it all. Holloway stared at the papers. Her hands began to shake. I can explain. It was for the community. It was for you, Michelle said, her voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. You signed the warrant to search my car without probable cause. You set my bail at $500,000 because you wanted a cut of the seizure. You thought I was just another paycheck. I can help you. Holloway stammered, desperation taking over. I can make sure McAllister goes away for life. I can influence the civil suit. I can get you millions. Just let us make a deal. Michelle tapped the side of her collar. A tiny red light blinked. Did you get that, Agent Ross? Michelle asked aloud. From the speakerphone on the desk, which Holloway had not realized was active, the voice of FBI Special Agent Brian Ross filled the room, loud and clear. We have a confession. Attempted bribery of a witness. Move in. Holloway screamed. She lunged for the phone, but the door burst open. Agents swarmed the room. Michelle stepped back, watching the chaos with detached interest. She saw Holloway being handcuffed, weeping, her mascara running down her face, a mask of dignity melting away to reveal the criminal underneath. In the aftermath, the dust finally settled on Turner County. Hank McAllister pleaded guilty to avoid a life sentence. He received 25 years in federal prison. He was placed in protective custody, but reports leaked that he spent his days mopping floors, terrified of the general population, many of whom he had put there. Kyle Bennett testified against the entire department. In exchange for his cooperation, he received probation and was barred from law enforcement for life. He moved 3 states away and became a mechanic, living a quiet, honest life, forever looking over his shoulder. Evelyn Holloway was convicted on 30 counts of fraud and racketeering. She was sentenced to 12 years. Her assets, the lake house, the cars, the accounts, were seized and used to establish a legitimate legal defense fund for the victims of her court. Michelle Grant was never seen in Turner County again. The civil suit was settled for an undisclosed amount rumored to be in the 8 figures. The money was anonymously donated to civil rights organizations across the South. On a warm evening in Washington, D.C., Michelle Grant sat at a cafe sipping an espresso. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Nathan Sterling. Link: Turner County Police Department disbanded. State troopers take over patrols. Message: the town is clean, or as clean as it gets. Dinner next time you are in D.C. Michelle smiled and put the phone away. She watched the people walking by, Tourists, locals, lovers. They looked at her and saw a woman enjoying a coffee. They did not see the operative. They did not see the storm. She took a sip, savoring the bitterness. The mission was done. The scales were balanced. And somewhere in a dark cell, a bad man was realizing that the worst mistake of his life was underestimating a black woman in a charcoal sedan. And that is how the Turner County trap snapped shut on the very people who set it. McAllister and Holloway thought they were playing a game with a helpless victim, but they ended up playing Russian roulette with a CIA operative. They lost everything, their badges, their freedom, and their legacy because they forgot the most important rule of power. It is a privilege, not a right. What happened to Michelle Grant? Well, that is classified. But let us just say somewhere in the world, she is still watching, waiting for the next bully to cross the line. What would you do if you were in Michelle's shoes? Would you have taken the plea deal? Or would you have fought to burn the whole system down? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of high-stakes justice and brutal karma, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you have not already, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. We post new dramas every week. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and remember, never judge a book by its cover, and never underestimate who you are pulling over. In the end, this story leaves us with a truth that hits straight to the heart. Never underestimate the quiet strength of someone you think you can break. Michelle Grant looked like an easy target, an ordinary woman driving home on a lonely Georgia highway. To two crooked cops, she was just another number, another opportunity to flex their power and fill their pockets. But beneath that calm exterior lived a woman who refused to be a victim. She didn't scream, she didn't beg, and she didn't break. Instead, she stood in silent dignity while the very system that tried to destroy her slowly crumbled around the men who thought they were untouchable. That's the powerful lesson here. True power isn't loud or flashy. It's the quiet courage to face injustice with intelligence, patience, and unbreakable resolve. When someone tries to crush your spirit because of who you are, where you come from, or what you look like, remember Michelle. The world may try to put you in a cage, but the strongest cages are the ones we build for ourselves when we stay silent and afraid. Real justice often begins the moment we decide we won't play their game anymore. It begins when we choose to fight back. Not with violence, but with truth, preparation, and the fierce belief that we deserve better. So the next time life puts you in a corner, hold your head high, stay calm, stay smart, and never forget, the people who underestimate you today might just be the ones regretting it tomorrow. If this story moved you, touched something deep inside, or reminded you of your own quiet battles, drop a comment below and tell me. What would you have done in Michelle's shoes? Would you have taken the easy way out? Or would you have burned it all down for justice? I read every single comment, and your stories truly inspire me. If you want more powerful tales of courage, karma, and real-life lessons wrapped in gripping drama, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe with the bell icon turned on so you never miss a new story. We drop fresh ones every week. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay wise, and remember, never judge a book by its cover, and never underestimate the person you're trying to pull over.